Today, Ukraine gains back ground in the capital as the US president visits NATO's eastern flank.
The single most important thing that we can do from the outset is keep the democracies united.
An Australian journalist facing life in prison in China on state secrets charges.
4-year-old Shayla Phillips reunited with her family in southern Tasmania after spending 2 nights in treacherous bushland.
The legend becomes immortal.
Buddy Franklin kicks his 1,000th career goal, sparking a flood of celebrations.
Australia takes the series lead in Lahore after a nail-biting win in the 3rd test.
And the metaverse opens its doors to high fashion as big brands cash in on the digital revolution.
Good morning, it's Saturday the 26th of March. I'm Dan Borsha.
And I'm Joanna Nicholson. You're watching Weekend Breakfast, coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people. It's great to have your company this morning. Ukrainian troops have retaken towns previously occupied by Russian forces near the capital, Kyiv. Now, it comes as the Kremlin announces a significant change in its invasion strategy, claiming the first phase of its operation has been mostly completed despite frozen battles and overextended supply lines across the nation. Moscow will now focus on gaining full control of the Donbass region in the southeast in what could be an effort to build leverage in negotiations.
US President Joe Biden has thanked Poland for its humanitarian efforts as the war continues. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians have been displaced over the past month, with many crossing into Polish territory. Correspondent Anne Barker has more from Warsaw.
This is the National Sports Stadium in Warsaw, where US President Joe Biden is tipped to visit while he's in Poland to meet Ukrainian war refugees. He's already announced an extra $1 billion in humanitarian aid, and much of that will go to people like these. The crowds here are just a hint of the refugee crisis caused by the war. 2.2 million Ukrainians have poured into Poland since Russia invaded last month. Every day, thousands come here to register for special ID cards so they can live in Poland, work here, go to school and access health and other benefits.
My children study in school here in Poland. We're very thankful to Poland for help.
There's a military dimension too to Joe Biden's visit. He's already met some of the US forces based here near Poland's border with Ukraine. And talks with Poland's president are bound to canvass plans to bolster NATO's defences, not just in Poland, but other countries that border Ukraine or Russia. For now, these refugees, of course, are safe in Poland, but many here strongly fear the war will spill over into Poland and other parts of Europe, perhaps even forcing them to flee further west. No amount of aid funding from Joe Biden will convince them that the US or other Western nations are doing enough to protect them or stop the war.
That's Anne Barker reporting there. And turning to other news now, an Australian journalist who's been detained in China for more than a year and a half will face trial next week on charges of sharing state secrets. Cheng Lei is a former anchor for the Chinese government's English language broadcaster, CGTN. The trial will likely take place in a closed court and could see her face anything from 5 years to life in jail.
4-year-old Shayla Phillips has been found safe and well after more than 48 hours lost in bushland in southern Tasmania. Shayla disappeared on Wednesday afternoon from the backyard of her family home in Stormley on the Tasman Peninsula. More than 100 personnel, sniffer dogs, horses, helicopters and drones were involved in the search. Inspector Gavin Hallett says finding her was an incredible relief.
Time she's been away, dehydration would be an issue, so certainly that's something that they'd be wanting to fix as soon as they can. We've said all along this was a search and rescue operation. There was nothing to indicate at that time that anything untoward had happened. We knew that if we just kept pressing away we would find her.
Eastern New South Wales is being warned to expect widespread rain over the coming days. Emergency services received more than 266 requests for assistance on Friday, with the most impacted areas being Wauchope and Lismore. There were also 4 rescues of cars stuck in floodwaters. The Bureau of Meteorology is forecasting showers and thunderstorms into next week.
A 40-year-old man has been charged after human remains were stolen and graves damaged at a cemetery in Melbourne's west. The graves were robbed at the Footscray Cemetery earlier this year. Yesterday, officers arrested a man after raiding a home in Spotswood, where they say they discovered human remains. The man has been charged with 6 offences and will appear at the Melbourne Magistrates Court in August.
The government of Solomon Islands is standing by a controversial draft agreement, which Australian officials fear could pave the way to a Chinese military presence in the Pacific Island nation. The draft agreement appears to provide a framework for Chinese troops and military assets to be deployed to Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands government has issued a lengthy defence of the move, saying it has to broaden its security ties.
No government has ever invested as heavily and consistently and recognised our responsibilities in the Pacific more than our government.
Will there be any response from Australia to this draft security pact with China?
Well, we will see how this progresses. I mean, one of the ways you deal with your Pacific family is you deal with it as family.
And Cuban roads have got a new form of traffic, with migrating crabs around the Bay of Pigs emerging in unprecedented swarms. It's believed the 2-year pandemic-induced slumber has allowed for a burst in population. Millions of red, yellow and black land crabs have been observed marching across highways from the forest to spawn in the sea.
Yes, so the pandemic has given them a bit of a break, because usually they're caught under the tyres of passing cars, these little crabs, but the cars haven't really been there as much. So that's caused a bit of an explosion in the numbers.
Well, 2 things. They might need some of those kind of pathways that we have on Christmas Island in Australia.
A crab
so that
pathway.
The crabs can,
yes.
like an overpass kind
yeah,
of thing.
Exactly.
Maybe we need to change zebra crossings
yeah,
to
I like
crabby
it.
crossings.
Yeah, crabby crossings. Very
like
good,
it works.
Dan. Very good.
Oh,
it's good to have
firing
you
on
back,
all.
Dan. He's back.
It's good to be back.
Good to be here. Good for you to be here. Welcome. All right, let's talk sport now. Good to have Daniela Intilli also back with us. And Danny, how good is Buddy Franklin?
Oh my God! I mean,
Yeah.
it's like we waited forever
Yeah,
for this
I know.
1,000th goal.
True.
But
You
when
can
it
imagine
happened-
the pressure. I was thinking with the crowd sort of standing around, all watching him.
Yeah, it's been because he's been injured. Otherwise, he would have
Yeah.
had it earlier. But came in with 996 goals.
No pressure.
And you know, great camaraderie with
Yeah.
the teammates as well who
Yeah.
handed him. But kicking that 1,000th career goal, he is just the 6th player in AFL VFL history to achieve this feat. And of course, the Swans beating Geelong by 30 points. But just look at this crowd
I
go.
know.
I was thinking, oh my goodness,
It's a bit intimidating, really.
I was a bit worried for Buddy at one stage for his security. I mean, the match stopped for
Yeah.
quite a while, and it took him about 10 minutes to get out. But the scenes were incredible. His wife was there too with their 2 children. Really just after the week we had in sport with Ash Barty retiring, I think this is kind of what we
This is
all
what we need.
needed. And so he kicked 4 goals, and Isaac Heaney, just a special mention, he kicked 5 majors. But of course, it's all about the Swans. Look at that,
Yeah.
even the 1,000. But amazing result there for the Swans, who remain unbeaten after 2 rounds.
Yeah, nice one.
That crowd just ecstatic.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears now to men's cricket. And